What up, YouTube Digital? It's a response to Corey C's series of China videos. First off, I agree with most of it. Secondly, China's not Tiananmen Square anymore. It's come a long way, to the point where it wouldn't shock me if they had a peaceful to semi-peaceful revolution within the next 5 to 10 years. Matter of fact, I believe that more than I ever believed that we're gonna die within the next 10 years here. But the government, as much as they portray to the outside world, they're not in control in China as much as they like. They have let money influence their people to the point that they don't have the mind control they used to. And I'll give an example, and I've given this example before. Discovery Channel had or Nat Geo, or one of them had a show on showing this 24-year-old girl was a lawyer getting her first condo. I think she's a lawyer. She was something professional, something like doctorish, lawyerish, something professional. And she's got her first condo, and she's having a little party. They're having, drinks and everything else. And oh, side note, there's over 600 7-Elevens in mainland China. But anywho, and they're outside on their patio barbecuing on a Weber grill, Okay, not a Weber style grill, a Weber grill, and they're barbecuing American style food. It says a lot. Back in Tiananmen Square days, yeah, she would have been shot. Nowadays, yeah, the young generation is definitely running the shit there, whether the government wants to say it or not. But I think the young generation is only keeping the current government out of respect. But if they, people are afraid that China may call for their money or whatever. First off, that would piss off the young workers, because we tariff the hell out of it to pay it off. Most of that money is just reach around money anyways. It's money for us not to tariff their imports to begin with. That's why the interest rate is bogus and all that other bullshit. It's just, most of it's bogus shit. It's just give me money. It's kickback money. But the job I'm at now, one of the positions I held for about 5 years, I dealt with expatriates every day. I had a phone on my desk. They can call directly to me. And if they had any issues with their claims or whatever, I deal with them. Or they can fax me their claims and I deal with them. Now, these expatriates are American workers. They're American workers working in China for an American company. And I don't know why they call them expatriates. I don't like the term myself, but anywho. And I talked to them long over it. We'd email back and forth and everything other. And these were people that work for the top silicon companies, and most of the Fortune 500 companies. And I dealt with about, I don't know, probably 200 of them, and a couple of them I have a pretty good relationship with, and we talk back and forth about it. Now, when China first started really becoming big in manufacturing, they would take in Chinese hillbillies. They'd go up to the hills and steal hillbillies by gunpoint and put them in factories. Those factories are pretty much gone now. That case is pretty much gone. They have no problem finding workers now. People come down from the hills because they don't want to be that anymore. And the funny thing is on Corey's video, he mentioned about the response and the girls saying that they like the communal housing. I was watching another video on China. I'm getting into China, man. There's just some really awesome shit that's going on there. And it's kind of like how America was in the 1900s when we were going through our industrial revolution thing. Or not 19, yeah, whatever. I'm still working too at the same time, so sorry, my brain's a little messed up right now. But they were showing the mega dam that's being built and how they're relocating, you know, towns that would be underwater to other. These towns have what we call projects. They weren't, 20 stories tall, but they were projects. They were concrete. I mean, the whole town is concrete. And it's amazing how much concrete they use. But the whole thing is concrete, and we refer to it as projects here. They like it. They're pissed off that they had to leave the old one to go to the new one, but the new one mimicked the old one. It's just a concrete, except the new ones had running water. The old ones had a hand pump in the town center. So these people like this shit. Okay? So who are we to tell them they're doing something bad? Look at, African tribes. They're all in. I mean, they don't have concrete buildings, but that's how other cultures deal with it. Who are we to say that they're doing it wrong? So a lot of the problems that are happening with factories and workers, as far as workers, doing jumping off shit, most of these workers are hillbillies. And I'm not being nice. They are Chinese that are living in very mountainous regions that some of them can't even speak a normal dialect. And they want to get out of what they're doing up there. So they come down and they get in there, and then the whole world is completely different. And some of them, we also got to understand, some of these guys are very inbred. Okay, and again, I'm trying to be nice. Okay, so don't come after me. I'm trying to be nice. It's just a fact. When you had 5 families go up on the top of a hill, and now there's 60 or 70 of them. Okay, how did that happen? Okay, so enough said. Okay, so sometimes going from here to a factory and structure and stuff like that, yeah, they're going to. But you know what? That happened here too. Look at the immigrants that we shoved into places in New York and stuff like that. They committed suicide. Some of them burnt the fucking shit down with them in it. It happens. This is a deal when a world is coming from like a second to a first world deal. This shit happens. And we need to understand it and go. And Apple is working on that. They are working on that issue, and they have been for a while. Nobody even really understood the problem until more recently. Another problem is Chinese media. Now, Chinese media is funny because a lot of times somebody in their office, home, with a keyboard calls himself a newspaper. And they'll put out a whole frickin' newspaper worth of stuff, and to print something in China's nothing. So he can print out a whole newspaper and sell a few ads, even though probably nobody watches it. But watchdog groups read all this shit, and most of it is incorrect. Most of it is bought by other factories. I mean, X factory could make a good ad in some dude's newspaper, and then go, hey, did you hear about Y factory's jumping problem? I want to read that next month, and maybe I'll put another ad in your paper. You can't, if you don't trust American, don't trust that. Not saying it doesn't happen, but don't believe everything you read. There's a lot of change that still needs to happen in China. Where they are today, they're pretty far ahead, especially the American owned ones or the foreign government owned ones. There's people that from the UK, they own factories there. Sweden, Germany, almost every other first world country has mini factories in China now. So it's not just America. And these factories, for the most part, are developing their own labor codes, since there's not a lot of realistic labor codes. A lot of them are funding different types of funds for people that got injured. A lot of the injuries happened before the revolution in factories. So for people to talk bad about China's thing, you gotta understand China's not the same anymore. Are they perfect? No. But compared to what they were, they're a hell of a lot better. And it's funny because I used to work for Sierra Nevada Brewery, so I always find it funny that I'll see a Sierra Nevada beer somewhere, in places where I wouldn't expect it. I am waiting to see a video from China with the Sierra Nevada beer. These people love America. These people, it's insane. I mean, you watch some of like Mordef 13, he's in Taiwan. He passes by 7-Elevens, just they got like 40 of them in a city or something. He's always passing them by. Different ones. These worlds are different. I like to go to China. I love to visit it, and stuff like that. But yeah, we also need to remember that stuff ain't coming back. Okay. We don't have the workers. The last of the workers that were doing this stuff in America were Mexican. My mom worked at a factory for GE for 15 years. When that factory closed because of INS issues, she was one of only a handful of Americans left. The rest of them were Mexican. Matter of fact, you got paid a big ass check if you just walked around being an interpreter all day. But in the 80s, and I don't know why people forget this shit. We had this big INS breakdown because we were being flooded by Mexicans coming in to work in our factories. And then that broke the system. The system hasn't been fixed since. The Mexicans used to all be pretty much documented. Now they're not. But those factories were relying on Mexican workers. And then they stopped having them. And that's when they started going overseas. Now, I'm shocked that people don't remember all these factories being raided in the 80s and 90s, or late 80s, early 90s. They would do 20 or 30 of them in one area in LA in a few days and send home like a couple thousand people. Just, pop up. INS could pop up in these factories all the time. I mean, they've made fun of it even in movies, like Born in East LA. But they even moved, the fact that these companies even got smart enough to move to the Midwest for a while. And then they figured it out and they got popped out there. When a town all of a sudden had 400, Mexicans show up. Then, oh gee, I guess that's where they went. So, what was left in manufacturing wasn't even really being made by too many Americans. So, yeah, if it comes back, if we cut ties with China and it comes back, we don't even have the workers to make the basics. We're not going to have TVs. We're not going to have any of that bullshit. I mean, just the basics. It takes a lot of people. So we need to fight to make sure that China does go even farther in their quest for employment laws and treatment and everything else. They're not there yet. They're not fully there. They got still a long way, but they're not as bad as what people say. That's China like 10, 20 years ago. But anyway, my thoughts. Peace.